The quarterly salary meeting started normally. Our boss Warren Pierce stood at the conference room screen, projecting departmental updates, discussing performance metrics. Then he switched slides and everything changed. A compensation spreadsheet appeared on the screen. Complete salary breakdown. Every employee listed. Every number visible. Warren claimed it was an accident, said he grabbed the wrong file. But he left it up just long enough. Long enough for everyone to see. Long enough for everyone to process. Long enough for the room to freeze completely. My name was at the bottom. Below everyone else in the department. Below employees I had trained personally. Below people hired last month. The lowest paid person in the entire division. I sat there staring at the numbers, trying to understand, trying to process, trying to stay calm. Then I spoke quietly. "Warren, is there a mistake in those figures?" He laughed. Actually laughed out loud. "No mistake, Adrian. Loyalty discounts are rare these days." A few people chuckled nervously. Uncomfortable laughter. Nobody knew where to look. Then Warren added something worse. Something that would stay with me forever. If he was really valuable, someone else would have hired him already. The market speaks clearly. The humiliation hit instantly. Like physical pain. Like being punched. My coworkers avoided eye contact. Some pretended to check their phones. Others stared at their notebooks. Nobody defended me. Nobody questioned the logic. Nobody said anything. And I sat there. Lowest paid. Publicly shamed. Completely exposed. That night at home, I received an automated client satisfaction report. Standard monthly summary. Routine feedback. I almost deleted it without reading. But the subject line caught my attention. Exceptional project leadership commendation. I opened it. The report praised a major project. Called it brilliantly managed. Highlighted innovative solutions. Noted exceptional client service. The credited project lead was Austin Palmer, my coworker. The problem was simple and devastating. I had secretly rebuilt the entire system over 3 sleepless weekends. Austin had nearly destroyed the account with incompetent code. Had created security vulnerabilities. Had built unstable architecture. I had fixed everything. Had worked alone. Had saved the client relationship. Austin knew nothing about how the system actually worked. But he had presented it in the final meeting. Had taken the credit. Had accepted the praise. Attached to the report was a bonus announcement. Austin was receiving $12,000. More than all my yearly raise requests combined. More than I had ever been offered. More than seemed possible. Then Warren sent a department-wide email. Subject: congratulating our high performers. He listed 5 employees. Praised their contributions. Highlighted their achievements. My name was not mentioned once. Not even as support. Not even as assistance. Not even as team member. I had worked on 4 of the 5 projects listed. Had solved critical problems on each one. Had enabled their success. But I was invisible. Completely erased. Like I did not exist. I sat staring at my laptop screen. Understanding something clearly. This was not oversight. This was not accident. This was systematic. Deliberate. Coordinated. And it had been happening for years. My name was Adrian Cole. 32 years old. Senior Operations Analyst. 5 years at the company. But those titles meant nothing. Did not reflect what I actually did. Did not capture my real role. I was the quiet fixer. The person everyone relied on when projects went wrong. When systems failed. When clients threatened to leave. When disasters needed preventing. I had trained more than half the department. Had built the automation systems that saved the company millions annually. Had created the infrastructure that enabled our growth. Had solved emergencies nobody else could handle. But I hated office politics. Hated self-promotion. Hated the performance of corporate networking. I just worked. Just solved problems. Just made things function. And leadership had slowly buried me. Had placed louder, less competent employees above me. had promoted people who knew how to impress executive, who knew how to take credit, who knew how to play the game. My technical competence became my limitation. My quiet reliability became my weakness. My focus on work became my downfall. Because in corporate environments, perception matters more than performance. Visibility matters more than value. Politics matters more than productivity. I had learned that lesson too late. Had focused on being good at my job. Had believed competence would be recognized. Had trusted that results would speak for themselves. I was wrong. Completely wrong. And now I was paying the price. Lowest paid. Least recognized. Most exploited. The essential employee nobody valued. Until it was too late. The next morning, a nervous intern asked for help with a data file. Young guy. New to the company. Clearly stressed. He sent me what he thought was a project template. But he had grabbed the wrong file. Had accidentally forwarded an executive payroll document. Confidential information. Internal salary data. I should have deleted it immediately. Should have pretended I never saw it. Should have maintained professional boundaries. But I looked, and what I discovered made me physically sick. Employees I had personally trained were making nearly double my salary. People I had mentored from day one. People who still asked me technical questions daily. One manager who constantly needed my help earned 3 times what I made. 3 times. For work he could not do without me. But the biggest shock was a note beside my salary profile. A comment in the metadata. Written by someone in HR. Keep below market rate, operationally dependent, low flight risk. They had calculated it, had planned it, had deliberately kept me underpaid. Not because I was not valuable, but because I was too valuable, too essential, too unlikely to leave. They had identified me as someone they could exploit safely. Someone who would not job hunt. Someone who would accept mistreatment. Someone with low flight risk. The clinical calculation was horrifying. They had studied me, had analyzed my psychology, had determined exactly how much they could underpay me, how much they could exploit me, how much they could take advantage, without me leaving. It was not neglect. It was strategy. Deliberate, systematic, calculated, and I had enabled it, had proven them right, had stayed for years, while they profited from my loyalty, while they built their careers on my work, while they laughed at my dedication. The next morning, everything felt different. Every interaction felt tainted. Every request felt exploitative. Then a major client called, demanded to speak with me specifically. Would not accept anyone else. Austin had failed another presentation, had crashed a demo, had created a crisis. Warren forced me into the call, told me to fix the disaster quietly, told me to salvage the relationship, told me Austin would handle the follow-up publicly. I spent 2 hours on the phone, explaining technical details, solving immediate problems, rebuilding trust. The client calmed down. The crisis was contained. The relationship was saved. But before hanging up, the client said something revealing. Something that stayed with me. Adrian, you're the only competent person left over there. Everyone else is smoke and mirrors. It was the first time I realized. Outsiders were noticing the dysfunction too. Were seeing through the performance. Were recognizing who actually delivered. The client did not want Austin. Did not trust Warren, did not value anyone else. They wanted me, specifically me, because they knew who solved their problems, knew who understood their needs, knew who actually produced result. But inside the company that knowledge was buried, that value was hidden, that competence was suppressed, because acknowledging it would threaten the existing hierarchy, would expose who was actually essential, would reveal who deserved higher compensation. So they kept me invisible, kept me undervalued, kept me exploited, while taking credit externally, while building relationships on my work, while profiting from my competence. The system was perfect, perfectly designed to extract maximum value. while providing minimum recognition, and I had been living inside it for 5 years, without realizing, without questioning, without understanding, until now. I started documenting everything, every project I had actually handled, every crisis I had actually solved, every system I had actually built. The deeper I dug, the worse it got. Entire revenue streams traced back to systems I had created years earlier, automation I had built, infrastructure I had designed, solutions I had implemented. Promotions had been given to people who presented my work. Bonuses had been awarded to people who took credit. Public recognition had gone to people who understood nothing. I found performance reviews, read old emails, checked project archives, built a comprehensive timeline. The pattern was undeniable, systematic, consistent. For 5 years I had been doing the work, while others took the credit, while others got promoted, while others built careers. Then I found something even worse, an internal spreadsheet, hidden in a shared drive, accessible only to senior leadership. It tracked employee compensation, compared to market rate, identified who was underpaid, who was overpaid, who could be exploited. The column header made me sick. Underpaid safely. My name was at the top of that list, flagged as someone making 30% below market rate, someone they could continue exploiting, someone unlikely to leave. The spreadsheet showed they knew, had always known, had deliberately chosen to underpay me, while paying others more, while claiming budget constraints, while denying my raise requests. They had the money, had the budget, had the resources. They just chose to spend it on people who played politics better, who presented better, who threatened to leave, while keeping me cheap, keeping me quiet, keeping me exploited, because I was operationally dependent, low flight risk, safe to abuse. One of the senior engineers quit abruptly, gave 2 weeks' notice, no explanation, just gone. During his farewell drinks, he pulled me aside, away from others, away from management, wanted to talk privately. "Adrian, they're terrified of losing you," he said. I laughed. It sounded impossible, completely contradicted everything I had experienced. "I'm serious," he continued. "I sat in meetings where they discussed you, where they strategized about keeping you." He explained that Warren had blocked my promotion twice, had done it behind closed doors, had convinced executives I was too essential to move, that promoting me would create operational gap, that I was more valuable in my current role. "They view you as too important to advance," he said. "Moving you up means training someone to replace you, and nobody wants that responsibility." Then he gave me advice, advice that would change everything. "They'll only value you when it hurts, when keeping you cheap costs them more than paying you properly. Until then, you're just a resource to exploit." Before leaving, he shared one more thing. "Start looking elsewhere. Your skills are worth triple what they pay you. You're just too loyal to realize it." Those words hit hard, challenged everything I believed, everything I had accepted, everything I had tolerated. I had thought loyalty mattered, that dedication counted, that hard work paid off. But I was wrong. Loyalty just made me exploitable. Dedication just made me cheap. Hard work just made me useful. Not valued, just useful. And there was a difference, a critical difference, one I was finally starting to understand. A recruiter messaged me on LinkedIn 2 days later. Professional message. Direct. Specific. At first I ignored it, deleted it, assumed it was spam. Generic outreach. Nothing serious. Then she messaged again. But this time she mentioned specific projects. Projects only insiders would know about. Projects that were not publicly listed. Projects I had led quietly. "Your name keeps surfacing when clients discuss successful system launches," she wrote. "Multiple industry contacts have mentioned you specifically. They believe you're carrying far more responsibility than your title suggests." She represented a rival firm, major competitor, well-funded, growing rapidly. They were building a new operations division, needed technical leadership, needed someone with proven expertise, someone who could build from scratch. The role she described was everything I did currently, but with actual authority, with real recognition, with proper compensation. "I'd love to discuss this opportunity with you," she wrote. "Even if you're not actively looking, I think you'd be interested in what we're building." For the first time in years, someone saw my actual value, recognized my real contributions, understood my genuine capabilities. Not someone inside the company, not someone who benefited from undervaluing me, but someone from outside, someone with objective perspective, someone who had researched my work, and they saw what my own company refused to acknowledge: that I was worth more, that I deserved better, that I had been exploited. I did not respond immediately, did not want to seem desperate, did not want to seem disloyal, but I saved the message. Kept thinking about it, kept wondering, what if she was right? What if I was worth more? What if loyalty was just making me cheap? The questions would not stop, would not quiet, would not disappear. And slowly, something inside me started changing, started questioning, started preparing. Warren gave me my annual performance review. We sat in his office. Same routine as every year. Same process. Same outcome. He started with praise, called me consistent, called me reliable, called me dependable. All the words that sound positive, but actually mean forgettable. Then he presented my rating. Meets expectations with some areas for development. Not exceeds. Not outstanding. Just meets. Despite carrying the department. Despite solving every crisis. Despite enabling everyone's success. The development area he highlighted was particularly insulting. Lacking leadership visibility. Need to advocate for yourself more prominently in meetings. I had heard this before. Every year. Same feedback. Same criticism. Same excuse. But the truth was simple. Every time I spoke up, I was talked over. Every time I presented, credit was redirected. Every time I advocated, I was dismissed. Then Warren denied my raise request. Again. Claimed budget constraints. Claimed market conditions. Claimed performance standards. 5 minutes later, he asked me to stay late. Emergency situation. Austin had created another crisis. System was failing. Client was furious. "I need you to fix this tonight," Warren said. "Before the client escalates tomorrow. No overtime pay. No recognition. No appreciation. Just expectation. Just exploitation. Just the same pattern." I realized sitting there. They had designed the system perfectly. Keep me overworked so I never had time to job hunt. Keep me invisible so I never built external reputation. Keep me dependent so I never gained leverage. Keep me underpaid so I never felt confident negotiating. It was brilliant, systematic, calculated, and I had been living inside it for 5 years, without seeing it, without understanding it, without escaping it, until now. I got invited to a high-profile client dinner unexpectedly. Austin was supposed to attend, had been scheduled for weeks, but he got sick last minute, called in with food poisoning, could not make it. Warren needed someone technical, someone who could answer questions, someone who understood the systems. So he brought me, reluctantly, almost apologetically. The dinner was at an expensive restaurant. Senior executives from both companies. High-stakes relationship building. Strategic partnership discussion. During the meeting, something unexpected happened. The client executives started thanking me. Directly. Specifically. Gratefully. "Adrian saved our entire migration project last quarter," their CTO said. "We would have lost millions in downtime without his intervention." Another executive added more. "Every technical problem we've had, Adrian solved it. Personally. Often within hours. He's the only reason this partnership works." Warren looked visibly uncomfortable. shifted in his seat, changed the subject, tried to redirect credit. But the clients kept talking, kept praising, kept highlighting my value. Then their CEO asked a devastating question. Asked it directly at the table, in front of everyone. Wait, you're not in senior leadership already? With your technical expertise and client relationship skills. The table went quiet. Warren tried to laugh it off, tried to explain organizational structure, tried to deflect, but the damage was done. The question hung in the air, exposed the contradiction, revealed the dysfunction, and everyone at that table understood. Understood I was undervalued. Understood I was being exploited. Understood the company was mismanaging talent. I said nothing, just smiled politely, just let the moment sit, just watched Warren squirm. For the first time ever, my value was visible, public, undeniable, and Warren could not hide it, could not minimize it, could not explain it away. The truth was out, and it changed everything. An employee from marketing reached out privately. Someone I barely knew. Asked to meet for coffee. Off campus. Away from the office. She seemed nervous. Kept checking over her shoulder. Clearly worried about being seen. I need to show you something, she said. She pulled up archived presentation files, old project decks, award submissions, public announcements. My name had originally appeared on multiple projects, major initiatives, award-winning work, client success stories, but in every case my name had been removed, deleted before public presentations, erased before award submissions, eliminated before media coverage. She showed me edit histories, track changes, revision comments. One comment from Warren stood out. Don't make Adrian the face of this. Keep him background. Another comment was more direct. Remove individual attribution. Make it team-based. But the team-based version only highlighted certain people, only mentioned specific names, only credited select individuals. Never me. Never the person who actually built it. Never the person who solved the problems. This wasn't neglect, she said. This was intentional suppression. They deliberately kept you invisible. She showed me email chains, internal discussions, strategic decisions, all documenting the systematic erasure of my contributions, the deliberate minimization of my value, the coordinated effort to keep me unrecognized. I'm showing you this because it's wrong, she said. Because you deserve to know. Because someone needs to see what they're doing. I thanked her, asked her to send me the files, asked her to be careful, and I understood finally, completely, undeniably. This was not about performance. This was not about visibility. This was about control, about keeping me cheap, about preventing leverage, about maintaining exploitation. And it had been deliberate, systematic, coordinated, for years. The company announced a massive new client rollout, worth millions, make-or-break project, critical for quarterly result. Warren held a department meeting, announced project assignments, announced team structure, announced leadership. Austin was named project lead publicly, would present to executives, would coordinate with clients, would be the face of the initiative. Then Warren pulled me aside privately. After the meeting, away from others. I need you to support this behind the scenes, he said. Make sure Austin doesn't screw it up. Handle the technical complexity. Solve the problems. Support behind the scenes. The same role, the same invisibility, the same exploitation. Meanwhile, the rival company increased their offer. The recruiter had stayed in touch, had kept reaching out, had built a relationship. Now they were serious. Formal offer, written terms, clear timeline. They gave me 4 weeks to decide, 4 weeks to choose, 4 weeks to commit. I quietly began preparing, started documenting systems, started organizing knowledge, started planning my exit, not telling anyone, not showing intention, just preparing, carefully, thoroughly, strategically, because I had learned, had finally understood, had recognized the pattern. They would never value me here, would never pay me properly, would never recognize my contributions, not because I was not valuable, but because I had proven I would stay anyway, had proven I would accept mistreatment, had proven I was safe to exploit, low flight risk. The moment they wrote that comment, the moment they made that calculation, the moment they decided to underpay me safely, they sealed their fate, because eventually everyone reaches a limit, everyone finds their breaking point, everyone discovers their worth, and I had finally reached mine. While preparing documentation for potential replacement, I discovered something alarming. Most of the company's critical automation systems had no documentation, no written procedures, no training materials, no knowledge transfer. Leadership had never allowed me time to create it, had kept me too busy with emergencies, had prioritized immediate fixes over long-term sustainability. Entire operations relied on shortcuts only I knew, workarounds only I understood, processes only I could execute, the client data integration, the nightly batch processing, the error recovery systems, the backup protocols, all custom-built, all undocumented, all maintained exclusively by me. Suddenly I realized something. The company was not just exploiting me. It was dangerously dependent on me. Critically dependent. Catastrophically dependent. If I left, systems would fail. Operations would collapse. Revenue would stop. Not because I had sabotaged anything. Not because I had created dependencies maliciously, but because they had never invested in proper knowledge management, had never built redundancy, had never planned for my absence. They had kept me too cheap to hire support, too overworked to document properly, too invisible to build a team. And now the entire infrastructure relied on me, exclusively, completely, irreplaceably. The irony was perfect. They had suppressed me to keep costs low, had exploited me to maximize profits, had underpaid me to inflate their bonuses, and in doing so, they had created a single point of failure, had built a house of cards, had constructed their own catastrophe, and I was the only person holding it together, the only person who knew how, the only person who could, and they had no idea, no awareness, no understanding, of how vulnerable they were, of how dependent they had become, of how much power I actually held. Until it was too late. Executive salary data leaked internally. Somehow. Anonymously. Posted to the company intranet. Accessible to everyone. The file showed everything. Salaries, bonuses, stock options, executive compensation, management pay scales. The disparities were massive. Executives made hundreds of thousands, while employees were told raises were impossible. Management received bonuses worth more than average salaries, while workers were told budgets were tight. The revelation created chaos. Employees compared numbers, shared discoveries, expressed outrage, morale collapsed, trust evaporated, anger spread. Warren immediately blamed me. Without evidence, without investigation, without proof, called me into his office, accused me directly. Did you leak this data? No, I said honestly. I had no access to executive compensation. Someone with technical skills did this. Someone who knows systems. The accusation was clear. The suspicion was obvious. The targeting was deliberate. HR started watching me closely, monitoring my activity, tracking my access, pretending everything was under review, pretending they were investigating, but really just intimidating, just pressuring, just trying to make me nervous. The irony was brutal. I was the lowest paid person in the department. I had the most reason to be angry. I had the strongest motive. But I had not leaked anything, had not exposed anyone, had not done anything. Yet I was the primary suspect, the automatic target, the obvious scapegoat, because I was technical, because I was quiet, because I was expendable, They could not blame executives, could not accuse management, could not target the real leaker. So they targeted me. Safe, easy, convenient. And I let them suspect, let them watch, let them waste time, because it did not matter anymore, because I was already leaving, because their suspicion just confirmed I needed to go, confirmed they would never value me, confirmed my decision was right. Warren pulled me into his office unexpectedly, closed the door, seemed almost friendly, offered me coffee, started talking about my future. "Adrian, I want to discuss a growth opportunity for you," he said. I waited, skeptical, suspicious. "We're expanding your responsibilities, adding project oversight, client relationship management, strategic planning." It sounded like a promotion, but he never said the word, never mentioned title change, never discussed compensation. "What about salary adjustment?" I asked directly. "We'll address that after the rollout succeeds. Once you prove you can handle the expanded scope." It was not a promotion. It was extra responsibility without meaningful pay. More work, more stress, more exploitation. Same salary, same title, same lack of recognition. Just promises, just potential, just future consideration. "I appreciate your confidence," Warren said. "Executives are really excited about your trajectory." Then he accidentally revealed something critical, something he should not have said. "We need to make sure you feel valued before the rival company tries to poach you." He knew about the offer, about the contact, about the opportunity. Someone had told him. Someone had leaked it. Someone inside knew I was being recruited. "What rival company?" I asked innocently. Warren backtracked quickly. "Just industry speculation. We know you're valuable. Want to keep you happy." But the damage was done. The truth was revealed. Executives were terrified, were scrambling, were trying to prevent my departure. Not because they valued me, but because they feared losing me. There was a difference, critical difference, and that difference told me everything. Told me they knew my worth. Told me they understood my value. Told me they had deliberately kept me underpaid, while knowing I deserved more, while fearing I might leave, while exploiting my loyalty. They were not ignorant. They were calculating. And now they were panicking. One of the company's largest clients contacted me directly. Not through official channels. Not through Warren. Directly to my personal email. "Adrian, this is confidential, but we need to discuss something important." We arranged a call. Private. Secure. Off the record. Their VP explained the situation bluntly. "We're considering moving our account. Quality has collapsed everywhere except projects involving you. We've noticed the pattern." He continued. "Every time we work with Austin or others, problems arise. Every time you're involved, everything works perfectly. It's obvious who actually delivers." Then he asked something unexpected. Something that changed my perspective. "Have you ever considered consulting independently? We would hire you directly. Skip the company entirely. Work with you as a contractor." For the first time, I realized something. My reputation existed outside the company walls. My value was recognized externally. My expertise was sought independently. The company did not own my relationship, did not control my reputation, did not determine my worth. The market did. Clients did. People who actually used my work. And they valued me. Highly. Specifically. Independently. "I'm not currently consulting," I said carefully. "But I appreciate knowing there would be interest." "More than interest," he said. "Genuine need. Multiple clients would follow you if you left. Your technical work is that differentiated." This conversation revealed something important. The company's leverage over me was imagined, was artificial, was maintained through information control. They had convinced me my value was internal, was specific to their systems, was tied to their infrastructure. But it was not. My skills were transferable. My reputation was portable. My value was independent, and clients knew it, recognized it, would pay for it. The company's hold on me was breaking. Their control was weakening. Their power was evaporating, because I was finally seeing clearly, seeing my real worth, seeing my actual options, seeing the truth they had hidden. For 5 years, Austin collapsed during a major internal presentation. Executives attended. Senior leadership. Strategic planning session. He was presenting our automation systems, the infrastructure I had built, the processes I had designed. Everything went fine initially. Smooth slides, confident delivery, professional presentation. Then executives started asking technical questions, detailed questions, probing questions, questions requiring actual knowledge. How does the error recovery system handle cascading failures? Austin fumbled. It has built-in redundancy protocols. Can you explain the specific protocol sequence? He could not. Tried to deflect. Tried to generalize. Failed completely. Another executive asked about scalability, about architecture, about technical decisions. Austin had no answers, no understanding, no knowledge. Everyone slowly realized he did not understand the systems at all, had no idea how they worked, had just been presenting my work, taking credit for my expertise, claiming knowledge he did not possess. Warren looked panicked, looked at me desperately, silently begging me to step in, to save the presentation, to rescue Austin again. Like always, like every time, like he expected. This time I stayed silent. Just long enough for the room to feel it, long enough for everyone to notice, long enough for the truth to become obvious. Then I spoke, calmly, clearly, authoritatively, answered every question, explained every system, demonstrated complete mastery. The contrast was devastating, undeniable. Everyone in that room understood who actually built the systems, understood who actually knew the work, understood who was actually essential. And they looked at Warren, looked at Austin, looked at the org chart, and they saw the lie, saw the dysfunction, saw the problem. For the first time, the truth was public, was undeniable, was impossible to hide, and nothing would be the same. Everything changed after that presentation. Executives suddenly started inviting me to strategy meetings, meetings I had never attended, meetings I did not know existed. Senior leadership wanted my input, wanted my perspective, wanted my expertise. HR called me, asked strange questions. What are your long-term career goals? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What would make you feel more valued here? The questions were transparent, obvious, desperate. Warren became unusually friendly, started praising my work publicly, started crediting me in meetings, started treating me differently. The shift was jarring, sudden, completely obvious. Then I overheard something. Walking past the conference room, voices inside, executive leadership, discussing something urgent. If Adrian leaves before the rollout, we're finished. The entire infrastructure depends on him. Another voice responded, Warren, I'm working on retention, trying to keep him engaged, but he knows we've underpaid him. A third voice, more senior, whatever it takes, we cannot afford to lose him now. The cost would be catastrophic. I kept walking, pretended I had not heard. But everything was clear, crystal clear. They knew, had always known, had deliberately kept me underpaid. And now they were panicking, not because they valued me, but because losing me would hurt them, would cost them, would expose their dysfunction. The timing was perfect, the leverage was complete, the power had shifted, because they needed me, desperately, critically, immediately, and I was the only one with options, the only one with offers, the only one who could walk away. The lowest paid employee was suddenly the most powerful person in the entire company. A former HR employee contacted me. Someone who had left months ago. Someone with no stake in current politics. Someone willing to tell the truth. Adrian, I need to share something with you. Something that's been bothering me since I left. She sent documents, internal memos, compensation analyses, executive communications. They proved everything. Proved Warren had intentionally minimized my compensation for years. Not because of budget, not because of performance, but because of bonuses. Executive bonuses were tied to departmental budget efficiency. The less they spent on salaries, the more executives received personally. My below-market compensation directly inflated their rewards. Every dollar denied to me became a dollar in their pockets. The documents showed calculations, showed discussions, showed deliberate decisions. Keep Adrian at current rate. Flight risk minimal. Operational dependency high. Savings fund executive bonus pool. It was written explicitly. Documented clearly. Proven absolutely. My loyalty literally funded their lifestyles. My dedication subsidized their wealth. My competence enabled their exploitation. And they had known, had calculated it, had deliberately chosen it. Warren had personally argued against my raises, had blocked my promotions, had suppressed my visibility, not to help the company, to help himself, to maximize his personal bonus, to inflate his own compensation. The betrayal was complete. The corruption was obvious. The exploitation was documented. And I had proof, clear proof, undeniable proof, everything I needed, to expose them, to destroy them, to ensure justice. But I did not need to use it, did not need to leak it, did not need to fight, because I had something better. I had another job, better pay, better culture, better future, and I was going to take it, and watch them collapse, without me, without my work, without my competence, because that was the real punishment, not exposure, absence. The rival company made their formal offer official. Triple my current salary. Equity package worth hundreds of thousands. Leadership title. Team authority. Creative control. Everything Warren had denied me. Everything I deserved. Everything the market valued. Before I could respond, Warren announced sudden department restructuring. Called an emergency meeting. Pretended this had been planned. I want to recognize Adrian's contributions publicly, he said. I've always believed in his potential. The lie was obvious, transparent, desperate. We're creating new senior positions. Adrian will be considered for leadership roles. Then he offered me a raise. Small raise. 15%. Smaller than my signing bonus elsewhere. Smaller than what I deserved. Smaller than the gap they had created. This shows our commitment to you, Warren said. But it showed the opposite. Showed they would only pay me properly when forced, when threatened, when desperate, not because they valued me, because they feared losing me. I smiled politely. Thank you. I'll consider it. But I had already decided, already made my choice, already committed. The rival company valued me immediately, recognized my worth without pressure, offered fair compensation without games. They did not need a crisis to treat me properly, did not need fear to pay me fairly, did not need desperation to recognize my value. They just did. Because that was how professional companies operate, how respectful organizations behave, how healthy cultures function. And I was done accepting less, done tolerating exploitation, done enabling dysfunction. My resignation letter was already written, already reviewed, already prepared. I just needed to choose the moment. The perfect moment. The moment that would hurt most. The moment that would teach the lesson. The moment that would prove that undervaluing people has consequences, real consequences, permanent consequences. I resigned quietly on Monday morning. Handed Warren my letter. Simple, professional, direct. He laughed at first, actually laughed out loud. Adrian, if this is a negotiation tactic, just tell me what you want. It's not a negotiation. I'm leaving. He looked at the letterhead, saw the competitor's name, saw the offer terms. His face went pale. Completely pale. You can't leave now. We're 3 weeks from the biggest rollout in company history. I'm giving standard 2 weeks notice. Per company policy. This will destroy the project, destroy the department, destroy relationships. That's not my problem anymore. Within hours, executives started calling, left voicemails, sent emails, demanded meetings. Warren's boss called personally. Adrian, let's discuss this. I'm sure we can find a solution. I've already found a solution. It's called working somewhere that values me. HR contacted me, asked if there was anything they could do, anything at all, anything to make me stay. You could have done something, I said. 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago. Every time I asked for fair compensation, every time I requested recognition, every time I identified the problem. But you didn't. You chose exploitation. You chose suppression. You chose to keep me cheap. Now you're choosing the consequences. For the first time ever, they sounded afraid. Really afraid. Genuinely desperate. Because they finally understood, finally recognized, finally admitted that I was not just valuable. I was essential. Not just helpful. Critical. Not just useful. Irreplaceable. Everything they had denied, everything they had suppressed, everything they had hidden, was suddenly obvious, undeniable, catastrophic, and there was nothing they could do, nothing they could offer, nothing that would change my mind, because some damage cannot be undone, some trust cannot be rebuilt, some bridges cannot be unburned. They had made their choice, years ago. Now I was making mine. My final 2 weeks exposed everything. Every system I had quietly maintained began breaking. The nightly batch processes failed. Client integrations crashed. Automated reports stopped generating. Error recovery systems malfunctioned. Nobody could fix them. Nobody understood them. Nobody knew where to start. Austin tried desperately. Worked late nights. Called me constantly. Begged for help. I declined politely. I'm documenting transition materials, as requested by HR. But there was nothing to document. The systems were too complex. The customizations too extensive. The knowledge too specialized. You could not learn it in 2 weeks. Could not understand it from documents. Could not replicate it through training. It required years. Required experience. Required expertise. Deadlines started failing immediately. Projects missed milestones. Clients complained nonstop. Escalations reached executive level. Warren started staying at the office overnight, trying to contain the damage, trying to prevent catastrophe, trying to save the rollout. But it was hopeless. Impossible. Too late. Everything was connected to me. Everything depended on my knowledge. Everything required my expertise. And I was leaving. In 9 days. In 8 days. In 7 days. The countdown was brutal. Visible. Terrifying. And there was nothing they could do. Nothing that would change it. Nothing that would stop it. They had built this. Had created this. Had caused this. By keeping me underpaid. By keeping me invisible. By keeping me irreplaceable. By never investing in redundancy. By never building documentation. By never planning for my departure. Because they never believed I would leave. Never thought I could leave. Never considered I might leave. Low flight risk. Safe to exploit. Permanently undervalued. They were wrong. Completely wrong. And now everyone knew it. 3 days before my departure, Warren came to my desk. Not to his office. To me. Publicly. In front of everyone. Adrian, can we talk privately? We went to a conference room. He closed the door. Sat down heavily. Looked defeated. Please don't leave yet. Stay through the rollout. Just 6 more weeks. I've given proper notice. I'm leaving Friday. I'm authorized to offer you a massive raise. Double your salary. Effective immediately. The same money they claimed never existed. The budget they said was impossible. The compensation they insisted was unreasonable. Suddenly appeared. Magically materialized. Instantly available. That's generous, I said calmly. But I'm still leaving. Triple, then. Name your number. Whatever it takes. Warren, this isn't about money anymore. Then what is it about? I looked at him directly. It's about 5 years of being underpaid deliberately. 5 years of having my work stolen. 5 years of being suppressed intentionally. 5 years of being exploited systematically. You can't undo that with a panic raise. Can't rebuild that trust with desperate offers. Can't repair that damage with emergency compensation. He sat quietly, knowing I was right, knowing it was over, knowing he had lost. They told me to keep you below market, he admitted finally. Said you were operationally dependent, low flight risk, safe to underpay. I followed orders. I shouldn't have. No, I said. You shouldn't have. I stood up, walked toward the door. Enjoy the rollout, I said. I'm sure Austin will figure it out. The look on his face, the desperation, the fear, the realization, was worth more than any raise, any promotion, any apology, because he finally understood, finally recognized, finally admitted, that I was valuable, that I was essential, that I was irreplaceable. Everything he had denied for years was now obvious, undeniable. Too late. I left anyway. Friday afternoon. Cleaned out my desk. Returned my badge. Walked out. 2 weeks later, the rollout imploded publicly. Spectacularly. Completely. Systems crashed during the launch event. Client data was corrupted. Integrations failed catastrophically. The company had to issue public apologies, had to offer refunds, had to suspend services. Clients raged online, shared horror stories, threatened lawsuits. Partners ended contracts. The financial impact was massive. Emergency meetings were held daily. Executives scrambled for solutions. Nothing worked. The damage was irreversible. One executive finally asked the question everyone was thinking, the question that made everything obvious. Why was the lowest paid person in the department the most important employee in this company? Nobody had an answer. Because there was no good answer. Just the truth. The uncomfortable truth. The devastating truth. That they had systematically undervalued their most essential employee. Had exploited his loyalty. Had suppressed his contributions. Had kept him invisible. While building critical dependencies on his expertise. Had created a single point of failure. While refusing to acknowledge his value. Had constructed their own catastrophe. While congratulating themselves on cost savings. The irony was perfect, complete, undeniable, and extremely expensive. The money they saved underpaying me cost them millions in lost revenue. The bonuses they earned from my suppression cost them client relationship. The efficiency they celebrated cost them operational capability. They had optimized for short-term personal gain, while destroying long-term company value. And now everyone knew it. Executives, employees, clients, investors, everyone. The company that had called me their lowest value had just proven I was their highest. The employee they said nobody else would hire was now leading their competitors' most successful division. The person they labeled low flight risk had just flown away, taking everything critical with him. Months later, I was thriving at the rival company, leading a team of 12 engineers, building systems properly, with documentation, with redundancy, with respect. Former coworkers kept reaching out, sharing news, revealing developments. Warren had eventually been removed, after leadership uncovered years of manipulation, years of employee suppression, years of compensation games. The investigation revealed everything. The spreadsheet tracking underpaid employees, the notes about flight risk calculations, the bonuses tied to salary suppression, All of it documented. All of it exposed. All of it career-ending. He was gone. The executives who enabled him were replaced. The culture that rewarded exploitation was changing. Slowly. Painfully. Expensively. One night, I looked at my old payroll file again. The one I had screenshot and saved. The one labeling me, operationally dependent, low flight risk. I smiled. Because they had misunderstood something critical. Had made a fundamental mistake. Had calculated incorrectly. Being operationally dependent did not make me controllable. It made me powerful. Being undervalued did not make me worthless. It made me dangerous. Being labeled low flight risk did not trap me. It freed me. Because the moment people stop valuing you properly, the moment they start exploiting you deliberately, the moment they calculate how much they can underpay you, that is the moment you become dangerous to underestimate. That is the moment you gain real leverage. That is the moment their dependency becomes your power. I was the lowest paid employee. Until I became the most valuable. Not because I changed. Because they finally understood. What they had lost. What they had wasted. What they would never recover. And that understanding, that recognition, that consequence, was worth more than any salary, any title, any apology. Because it proved something fundamental, something they would never forget, that undervaluing people has a cost, a real cost, a permanent cost, and sometimes that cost is everything.